Sir, start பண்ணலாம் sir.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is the 20th episode or the 20th presentation on the theme of 70th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations through thematic stamps. International relations, this will be part A. You're going to have a part B also, because the number of slides are more, so we left it there. Look at this rice field. This is actual rice field. Somebody has done artwork on the rice field, cutting the rice in such a way you get the Fujiyama, and then the wave, then the samurai, everybody together on this. It's a beautiful thing. I thought that's a nice picture to be shared with all of you. Right. Now, introducing Japanese foreign relations or diplomatic relations to start with. The foreign relations of Japan, okay, Nihon no Kokusai Kanke, are handled by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Japan. Japan maintains diplomatic relations with the United Nations, member countries, and member states, except for North Korea. North Korea is, again, a rogue state there on that particular thing. In addition to UN observer states, where UN is putting this thing, like Kosovo, Cook Island, Niue, Policy, they're the UN observer states, and they're also excluded from the basic foreign relations of Japan. Japanese foreign relations had earliest beginning in the 14th century, and after the opening of the world in 1854, with the Convention of Kanagawa, when Commodore Perry came and opened the doors of Japan from his seclusion, readily modernized and built a strong military. It was imperialistic, seeking control of nearby areas with major wars against China and Russia. Maybe Japan was the only Asian country which won the war against Russia and proved Asian supremacy over European country. It gained control on parts of China and Manchuria, as well as Korea and the islands such as Taiwan and Okinawa. It lost in World War II and was stripped of all its foreign conquests and possession. American General Douglas MacArthur, acting for the Allied powers, supervised occupied Japan in 1945-51. Quite a number of things happened. The emperor came on the radio and said he is no more divine. And then Shinto, which is the state religion, was being declared as one of the religions on par with other religions. So it lost its native religion of importance in Japan. Since the occupation ended, diplomatic policy has been based on close partnership with the United States and seeking trade agreements. In the Cold War, Japan was demilitarized, but it allied with the US in the confrontation with the Soviet Union. You see, once US was their enemy, but they are now together. Because US decided to support after dropping the atom bombs on Japan, it actually participated in rebuilding Japan. It played a major support in the role of Korean War. Japan played a major role in the Korean War and in the rapid economic development in 1960s and 70s. Japan, one of the major economic powers in the world. Okay, so a country which is very badly defeated in the war with American this thing, and the very hard work and perseverance and tenacity of the Japanese people, it became a superpower in the area of economy. The history of Japanese foreign relations deals with international relations in terms of diplomacy, economics, and political affairs from about 1850 to 2000. The kingdom was virtually isolated from the 1850. We call it as a kingdom because still the monarch is, the emperor is the person on top, with limited contacts through Dutch traders. That is originally in 1850, when Tejuma traders came, and Nagasaki, there was a small portion, in artificial island, Tejima Island. That is where the trade with the West started. The Meiji Restoration was a political revolution that installed a new leadership that is eager to borrow Western technology and organization. The government in Tokyo carefully monitored and controlled outside interactions. Japanese delegations to Europe brought back European standards, which are widely imposed across government and the economy. Trade flourished as Japan rapidly industrialized. European-style imperialism and colonialism were borrowed, as in the late 19th century. Japan defeated China and acquired numerous colonies, including Formosa and Okinawa. The rapid advances in Japanese military prowess stunned the world in 1904 to 1905, when it definitely defeated Russia, has gained a recognition as a world power, because for an Asian country to defeat a European country was something to be recognized. So Japan did that, and it had the imperialism continued as it took control of Korea and began moving to Manchuria. The only military alliance was the Great Britain. During 1902-1923, the First World War, it joined the Allies and seized many German possessions in the Pacific and in China. Japan put heavy pressure on China, but China resisted. Americans under General Douglas MacArthur were in ultimate command of the Japanese affairs in 45 to 51. MacArthur worked to democratize Japan along with the lines of American New Deal, with the destruction of militarism and monopolistic corporations, and the inclusion of democratic values and electoral practices. MacArthur worked well with Emperor Hirohito, who was kept on the throne as a symbolic constitutional head as a ruler. In practice, the actual administration of national government was handled by the Japanese themselves under the Prime Minister Yoshida Shigeru. His policy, known as the Yoshida Doctrine, was focused Japan energies on rebuilding the economy while relying entirely on the United States to handle defense and foreign policy generally. The occupation culminated in the Peace Treaty in 1951, signed by Japan and the United States and 47 other involved nations. We didn't sign, India didn't sign in 1951, but we signed in 1952, a separate, that's why 1972 happens to be the 70th year of diplomatic relations. Of course, this also happens to be the 50th year of my first visit to Japan. I went to Japan in 1952. So 1972, 50 years since I made my trip to Japan for my training, and then later on many number of times, not including the Soviet Union or other Chinese government. The occupation officially ended in April 1952. American diplomat John Foster Dulles was in charge of drafting the peace treaty. He made sure that Japan was not obligated to pay any repatriations to anyone. That's a great thing that helped the economy, otherwise they would have been drained. From 1950 onwards, Japan rebuilt itself politically and economically. The US and its allies used Japan as their logistic base during the Korean War, which poured money into the economy in Japan. Beyond the immediate neighbors, Japan pursued a more active foreign policy in recent years, recognizing the responsibility which accompanies its economic strength. Japanese Prime Minister Yasuo Fukuda, stressed changing direction in a policy speech in the National Diet. Japan aspires to become a hub of human resource development, as well as research and intellectual contribution to further promote cooperation in the field of peace building. This follows the modest success of the Japanese conceived peace plan, which became the foundation of the nationwide elections in Cambodia in 1998. This year is Japan and India 70th year of diplomatic relations. Okay, to commemorate this, we have this thematic stamp presentation also. The changing demography increased Japan's need for bilingual skilled people from other countries for employment in Japan, where JLPT as a base plays an important role. There is language diplomacy between Japan and other nations now. While almost all the Asian countries in the field, India is trying to be the late entrant, but India's multilingualistic skill and the education system, I hope, will make us the most vital player in this area. Okay, now let's look into the thematic stamps which are linking us to this international relations. Commodore Perry visits and Japan opens its doors. From the Emperor Meiji's period, Japan started interaction with the Western nations. But from the very early days, China, Korean Peninsula has made their contribution to Japanese language, religion, politics, and culture. Kyushu Islands and Nagasaki were serving as the door to outside world in a limited way, even when Japan closed its doors outside world under the shogun's rule. Japan's international started in true sense when Commodore Perry opened the doors and signed the treaty with Japan. To commemorate this event, Japan released a pair of stamps and a souvenir sheet on 17 May 1960 for Centennial of the Japan-US Treaty. Now look at this first day cover. There are two stamps. Okay, they are stamped first day stamps showing Commodore Perry in the corner with his black ships, and also a small coin. Some of the countries, along with the stamp, instead of this thing, they also fix up a stamp to show it is a commemorative cover that they have. Japan was closed country to outside world for nearly 300 years under Tokugawa shogunate, except for the South Nagasaki region. The Perry expedition was a diplomatic and military expedition during 1853 and 54 to the Tokugawa shogunate, involving two separate voyages by warships of the United States Navy for the establishment of diplomatic relations and negotiations of trade agreements with various nations in this region. Opening contacts with government of Japan was considered a top priority of the expedition. It was one of the key reasons for this inception. The Perry expedition led directly to the establishment of diplomatic relations between Japan and the Western great powers, and eventually to the collapse of the ruling Tokugawa shogunate and the restoration of the the emperor system. Japan was a closed country, okay? So, and for nearly 300 years. Now look at this first day cover, a photograph of Commodore Perry and this like a souvenir sheet, it is there. And then the two stamps, I think these stamps were released by Okinawa later. On 9th February 1860, 18 January in Japanese calendar, the Kanrin Maru, a screw-driven steam warship, represented a new technological advance in the warship design. Captained by Katsu Kaishu, the American officer John Brooke left Uraga Bay for San Francisco. 1860, Japanese government sent its first diplomatic mission to the United States. Its official mission was to ratify the Treaty of Friendship, Commerce and Navigation, which was signed several years earlier when Commodore Perry visited Japan. That's the time first treaty was signed. Now they wanted to ratify the same. So this mission went to in Kanrin Maru. Kanrin Maru has to have a very tough travel going to San Francisco across the Pacific. For the first time in Japan's 2,631 years history, a reigning emperor and empress traveled around abroad in 1971 autumn to visit 7 countries in the faraway Europe. Speaking of his coming tour, emperor was told his official, "Never mind what my own tastes are." The first essential is that this visit promote international goodwill. I shall do my best to obtain hours of international friendship, the emperor said. So that is a very strong statement which lays the base, the foundation for Japan's international relation. To commemorate this visit to Europe, Japan in 1971 released 2 stamps and a souvenir sheet. Now you can see them, and a full sheet, smaller size sheet. They are issued. You can see them with the Emperor's chrysanthemum and also Mount Fuji in the stamps. So that's a full sheet that you have. And there's a souvenir sheet. The same 2 stamps. They're there in the set of stamps show Mount Fuji and Pacific Ocean, okay, in one, and around Imperial chrysanthemum, and mythological bird Ho in the other with Sakura. Okay, you see the mythological bird Ho is something like which will always come back. It can never be. There's a bird in the Europe. That's what they call us. So something like that. It's a Eastern mythology says Ho is a bird. It's a mythological bird which is always will come back to life. It can never be destroyed. A commemorative first day cover and a postcard at the bottom are from Germany. So this is what the emperor's visit. If you see, emperor went 2001, 2040, came back, and then 11 and 12, this stamp was released in Germany, and 14 is return was commemorated with these 2 stamps and the sheet and the souvenir sheet. Now, Emperor Hirohito and Empress Nagako Kuni departed the Tokyo Imperial Palace in October 1975 for a 15-day goodwill tour of the United States. The Japanese royal family joined US President Gerald Ford administration at the White House, seeking to increase the Pacific friendship while developing a better understanding of the American culture and the Japanese culture, how they can interact, how they can build a stronger two-nation cultural friendship. Okay, so you can see the 2 stamps with both the flags of USA and Japan, with the sakura in the thing, which is symbolic thing of Japan. So they are there, and there is also a souvenir sheet of the 2 stamps. Now, a commemorative postcard was made. Japanese is a Japanese first day card, and then inside the first day card or inside the cover, you have a card. What you see there, I made that card big for you. After Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, American imagined its emperor is some sort of a evil god looking or evil god king. During the visit in the United States, nearly 34 years later, they discovered him to be a diminutive gentleman with almost a boyish enthusiasm for his hobby of studying of marine biology. A 74-year-old human being who considered the war as deplorable and in fact had urged Japan's military leaders to be against it. This new visitor to America was the same Hirohito who in 1945 broke the president to speak in the radio announcing Japan's surrender. Emperor Hirohito and Emperor Nagako arrived in Newport, New York, New Virginia, and on October 1st, 1975, in Japan Airlines DC-8, Oriental youngsters at the airport waved flags. That's the Japanese youngsters in the US of both the nations. All the White House and imperial couple met President and Mrs. Ford. And there was a 21-gun salute and marathon. A Marian band was played for the Japanese anthem. So that's how it is going on. See, I don't want to go more in detail, but I want to say to commemorate the first visit of Japan's Emperor and Empress to the United States, Nippon's, this Japan's name, that's what is in the card. Minister of Post and Telegraph issued this beautiful commemorative stamp on the date of Hirohito's returned home on October 14, 1975. Number 50, appearing in cancellation, significance of the 50th year of Emperor's reign. The nomination in each stamp is 20 yens. The stamps depict cherry blossoms, the American flag, and a flowering dogwood with a Japanese flag. Together, they symbolize the unity of both countries and working for peaceful solutions in the world's problems. So that is what the first day cover meant. Now, 100th year commemorative cover for Commemorative Peri's landing in Japan. You can see that's a stamp that is earlier, first day issue. It was stamped in Washington. It's the first day issue. And 100th year of this is issued by NATO. The right-hand side cover is issued by NATO for the first day cover for 100th year of commemorative first day cover of Perry landing there. 150 at the anniversary of Japan-US relationship. Spring is blossoming, spring is glowing. Today is a glorious weather. Together with Ambassador Baker and other guests, both from Japan and the US, I'm delighted to celebrate 150 years of Japan-US relationship. This is said by Prime Minister Koizumi. Japan and the United States have nurtured our friendship for about 150 years since Treaty of Peace and Amity between Japan and the United States was signed in Yokohama 1853. That's when Commodore Perry came. Along the way, we have experienced some difficult time. However, it is all more by overcoming the difficulties that friendship between two countries have grown very strong. And then United States President George Bush. This is what the Japanese Prime Minister said. I'm proud to join you in commemorating the 150th between the United States and Japan. Today, all American people are proud to claim friends. Two nations are bound by a common interest. Common alliance brings peace, stability, hope, and for a better people across the Pacific and around the world. Even more than 40% of the world's wealth. Together, we use technology's advancement that defines our age. This is what Bush said. So the relationship was very strong, and US welcomed Japan, and Japan, even though US was the one that bombed them, but Japan became very friendly. And these are the stamps, first day cover. They were released, a block of 4 were released for the 150, the US-Japan relationship. And you can see Fujisan is one, the other one is there, mascot. Then stamps for 61st Inter-Parliamentary Conference in 1974, October 1st. So you can see these are the two stamps that were released in Japan for the Inter-Parliamentary thing. And using them as a first day cover, which showing a small coin of America and as well as Japan. You have a 5-yen coin. If you see, there's a 5-yen coin which has got a hole as a thing. Japanese call it as 5-yen or 50-yen. Japanese have got 2 coins. I think there's a 5-yen coin. 5-yen is what they call as goen. Goen means luck. When they go to the Shinto shrine, they throw the 5-yen coins into the coin box, and the temple ties them around with a nice looking ribbon and gives to the people who go there free. That means you throw away your bad luck and take a good luck with you home. So this is a special sort of stamp for the inter-parliamentary thing, showing President Ford and Prime Minister Tanaka with the 2 stamps on November 74. And that's the 2 stamps that were released for that. The Fulbright, you should be knowing that there is a Fulbright grant as an international reputation built on the principles of binational governance, autonomy, and open competition based on individual merit without regard to the individual's institution affiliation, geographical location, race, color, or creed. The objective of the grant is not only to enable the recipient to pursue a particular field of study, but to develop leaders who can contribute to promoting mutual understanding between the United States and Japan. on 8th May 2002, this scheme celebrated its Golden Jubilee 50th year. So that is the stamp you can see for the Fulbright Golden Jubilee scheme. Now, Japanese emigrated in large numbers to Hawaii, Brazil, and all these days. Earlier days, because there was need of labor there, and Japanese wanted to have jobs. So, in 1868, the American businessman Eugene M. Van Reed sent a group of approximately 150 Japanese to Hawaii to work on sugar plantation and another 40 at Guam, the island of Guam. This unauthorized recruitment, shipment of laborers, known as gamanmono, marked beginning of Japanese labor migration overseas. On the 20th August 1960, Japan released the issue for the immigration of its people to Hawaii. So you can see it's a beautiful rainbow that shows, and that is the one that has been given for the commemorating the 50th year of migration to Hawaii. Then 25th anniversary of Japan joining the United Nations. First anniversary of Japan joining the UN. Japan joined the UN in the year 1957 on March 8th. So there's a special stamp, 1957 stamp, the blue with the UN symbol there. And then the 25th anniversary of Japan joining UN. That is again on this side you have two stamps, 15 yen and 50 yens, and both are showing the UN symbol and the flags of different nations in one. Another one, two hands together holding UN. So this is on 1970. The earlier one was 1957. This is 1970, October 24th. These are the stamps that were released for the 25th anniversary of Japan joining the UN. For 400th delegation or anniversary of Christian boys delegation to Europe. And see, this is a 400th anniversary of Christian boys. Not many boys, only around 5 boys. In 1547, Xavier met a Japanese fugitive named Anjiro, and his good account of his home country, Japan, led Xavier to evangelize this country. One Jesuit priest, Father Valigno, on his first visit to Japan in 1579, realized that this would be extremely advantageous to the mission. They had to send a group of Japanese Christians to Rome, and the aim was to introduce Europe to the Japanese. The group Father Valigno sent to Rome included the names of the people, okay, Manasio, Chiva, Miguel, so all those. They were all 12 to 13 years old and students at the Jesuit seminary in Harima. Harima is in Japan. And 30th September 1982, a stamp was issued for the 400th anniversary of boys delegation to Japan. So that is the thing. You can see the ship and the travel plan. And this is on 1982, September 20th. Okay. 10th anniversary of restoration of relations with China. Prime Minister Kakueki Tanaka of Japan visited People's Republic of China at the invitation of Premier of the State Council, Chu Enlai, of the People's Republic of China from September 25th to September 30, 1972. Two countries signed a joint communique of the government of Japan and the government of the People's Republic of China at Peking on September 29, 1972. To commemorate the 10th anniversary of this event, a stamp was released on the 29th September 1982 in Japan. You can see the stamp on the right-hand side. It's a multicolor stamp, 1982, 39 by 28 millimeters size, 60 yen face value. On the 18th June 1958, a stamp was issued to commemorate Japanese immigration to Brazil. Japanese immigration to Brazil was part of the Japanese diaspora in Hawaii, Canada, and the United States prior to the World War II. Japanese immigration was encouraged by the government because of the rural unrest caused by a large measure by the heavy land taxes of the Meiji government. When the United States, Canada, and Mexico curtailed Japanese immigration after 1908 because of the racial economic reason, Brazil and a lesser extent Peru encouraged Nikkei, then second generation Japanese, to migrate because of need of rural laborers on their cotton and sugar plantation of these nations. Figures for Japanese immigration to Brazil before World War II placed the number of Japanese migrants around 280,000 and seemed only second only to Hawaii. The ethnic Japanese population of the Brazil, including first generation, second generation, third generation. Okay, that's what we call Issei, Sunset, and Yonsei, fourth generation. Okay, first through fourth generation of immigrants. And now about 1.2 million, more than 180,000 of these have sought temporary employment in Japan during the last decade. So that is a ship that is showing the Japanese flag and Brazilian flag. Now, Centenary of Japan-Thailand Friendship Treaty. After Japan adopted policy of Sakoku, the policy of closing the country to outside world during the samurai clan or shogunate ruling the country. In 1639, the community began to decline. Countries later, a new chapter of the relations in modern history began with the declaration of amity and commerce between Japan and Siam in 1887. At that time, Japanese exports of law, education, and sericulture is growing pearls, and so forth, were dispatched to Thailand to contribute to the modernization of that country. Okay, so that's why the stamp was given, showing was released by Japan, showing, of course, down below they show Sakura and then Buddha in the Thailand slide and the pagodas there in Thailand. And 1987, this was released. Okay, European Culture Festival, Europalia, 89, Japan and Belgium. The first Europalia, the Roman Opalia, meaning rich harvest, was conceived in Brussels in 1969, and the festival has been held annually since to showcase the visual and performing arts of the different designated guest countries each year. 1989 was the year of Japan, and the beautiful fire stamps were released for the event in Japan on the 18th of September 1989. That's a stamp that you see all ukiyo-e prints. Okay. Now, 10th anniversary Japan-China Peace and Friendship Treaty. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Japan and People's Republic of China was conducted between People's Republic of China and Japan on August 12, 1978. The treaty was signed by Beijing by Huang Hua, 1913-2010, Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China, and Suano Sakura, Minister of Foreign Affairs Japan. The treaty went into effect on October 23, 1978, with the state visit of Vice President of People's Republic of China, Deng Xiaoping, to Japan. The treaty had its origin in joint communique of the government of Japan and the government of People's Republic of China in 1972. You can see the two stamps. You can also see the four stamps that are down below, the block of four, and the two stamps that are released by China for the same event. So you can see both the Chinese stamp as well as Japanese stamp for the 10th anniversary Japan-China Peace and Friendship Treaty. The same, there is an information booklet. I'm sorry, I'm only showing it. I can't read so much of Japanese. Thank you. The Japan-China relationship. You see, look at these stamps. The Chinese astrology, the zodiac, 12 animal signs represent 12 different types of personality. The zodiac tree internationally begins with the sign of the rat. Then there are many stories about the origins of Chinese rats and tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. And the same 12 zodiac animals have been adopted from the Chinese system into Japan also. You can see this is all Chinese stamps. For the China-Japan relationship, they have released these stamps, both looking in golden foil like thing, but it's not a gold foil. It's a paper, but beautifully done. And then the two other stamps. 20th anniversary of Japan-China Peace and Friendship Treaty. Japan wants always to have a smooth relationship with all its Asian neighbors. China playing a vital role in Japanese history and show Japanese enthusiasm and the keenness to keep normal relationship with Japan. Released a Centenary pair, two stamps you can see on the right, Centenary pair of stamps on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of nomination. You can also see a picture postcard of that occasion. Unfortunately, Japan is island. We are not an island, but still we both are surrounded by too many nations around, and all of them want friendly relations, but sometimes the relationship gets skewed. We have Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, China, Nepal, Afghanistan, they're all around us. Japan has got South Korea, North Korea, and down below Philippines, and up north Russia, and then the China. So like that, we both share the same geographical threats, both countries, China and India. Okay, 450th anniversary of Japan-Portugal relationship. Japan and Portugal established their diplomatic relations officially in 1860, and the Treaty of Peace, Amity, and trade was signed between them. See, many things have happened from that treaty, which was followed by the ratification of the treaty in 1862. Now, if you look at this it's a Centenary pair that has been released, issued in 1993 for the 450th anniversary, and there is a picture for the first day cover also of the same. The two stamps cancelled. Now, Japan-Brazil relationship, it's a very colorful, like the Brazilians, very colorful. Largest ethnic Japanese community overseas is in Brazil. The 90 years since the arrival of the first group of immigrants from Japan and their progeny have played an active role in agriculture and a broad range of other fields in Brazilian society. Many events were held in both Japan and Brazil during 1995, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the conclusion of the bilateral treaty, Amity, Commerce and Navigation. Many events were held in both Japan and Brazil during 1995, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the conclusion of the bilateral treaty, Amity, Commerce and Navigation. Now, 30th anniversary of Japan-China Peace and Friendship Treaty. Today, unfortunately, they are not in the best of terms of friendship because of the South Sea China issues. Okay, there's one full sheet has been given for that. The Japan Post Holdings has issued a postage stamp. It's there, and the details of all the stamps are given here. Okay, you can see there is this thing called philately in Japan. There's a website, put philately in Japan, And this, if you go on that, that's run by the Japan Post Office. And then there is a thing called new issues. Go and click every year's new issue. Only from 1998 to 2017 are there. And see the new issue, they're all identified by the numbers and the detail which I've given in small are all there. You can look at that and open Google and see what it matters, what it means. So that is the way you have to look at that. Now, 30th anniversary Japan-China Peace and Friendship Treaty. In one more set of settlement stamps. Stamps have been issued. There's a certain pair. Okay, purple wisteria. It's another one is a goldfish and cherry blossom. These two are given in the year 2002. Japan-Mongolia relationship. 30th anniversary of diplomatic relation between Japan and Mongolia. Okay. You see, Japan and Mongolia, Japan has released one stamp, and Mongolia has one stamp on the left-hand side, which you see for the Mongolia relationship, and one more ATNs on the right I have put. Again, there are two of them. Okay. Now, Japan-Mongolia relationship, diplomatic relations between Japan and Mongolia were established in 1972. In February 1997, 25th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Then the Prime Minister visited Japan, and where a joint announcement was made. So there are two souvenir sheets that were released by them, and also the stamps, what you see. And these are the first day issues for China-Japan relationship. Now, 20th anniversary of Japan-South Korea diplomatic relation. It's not only diplomatic relation, there's a lot of cultural relation, even RC, what you call as their cereals and their language. Many things have gone from Korea into Japan. So Korea has got a lot of role to play in Japanese culture, language, and they've been South Korea, North Korea, their relationship has been always on the seesaw. Sometimes they're very good, sometimes they have a issue. Now it seems to be going very good. Okay, both understand that they both need each other, and they cannot be on warring path. Japanese migration to Mexico. Again, one more Latino country. On the 12th May 1997, Japan replaced a stamp to mark the Japan elapsed a stamp to mark the centennial of Japanese migration to Mexico. In 1893, a group of Japanese government officials, politicians, and intellectuals organized the Colonization Society, calling for observation and development of Japanese colonies. Like other modern nation states, they argued that Meiji Japan would need to expand externally in order to obtain large markets to export as surplus population and commercial goods. The society put project of 1897 attempted to establish a significant colony in Mexico. That is the thing. Now, Marshall's Island, a small island in the Pacific, okay, they also have a relationship with Japan. But a lot of students go and study in Japan from Marshall Islands. On September 25th, the Treaty of Friendship, Trade and Navigation was signed in Washington between Chile and Japan, establishing diplomatic relations released to celebrate the centenary of this event on the 1st of September 1997. Okay, Japan-Chile, 100 years over. This again, Chile is another Latin America country. Marshall Island is a Pacific island. And then celebrating year of France in Japan. France has released some beautiful pictures, paintings, and Japan has adopted them for their stamp. On 28 April 1998, Japan released a stamp to celebrate the Year of France and Japan. During the Year of France and Japan, the year from April 1998, both government of France and the private organization make efforts to introduce the culture and scientific technologies of France into Japan. France issued postage stamp commemorating 1997 Anniv of Japan and 8th October and 6th October 1997. This is the first time the Japanese postage stamp was depict the European oil painting and liberty guiding the people of Telesonic and to make the most of this powerful symbol of France identity. The Japanese post office has issued stamp of these paintings. So you can see there's a pair. Of course, they both are the same, so it's not certain, it's a pair. And also a block of 4 are there. And joint stamp for France and Japan. You can see the post box for both countries is there. Designs of joint stamps between France and Japan to be issued on October 1921. Each country issued 2 stamps in satin and pair and sold in miniature sheets of 5 pairs. Stamp sheet from France was issued on 18th November, and I could not see the Japanese stamp in 2020. These were France, what they have issued. That is a stamp that is there. You can see the postal boxes of both Japan and France. The red one is the Japanese post box. Yeah, that's how it is. And then these are the 2 first day covers, which are showing the beautiful paintings which have been brought into the first day covers of France. So that brings us to the end. Sorry, little smaller presentation today because the part B is coming next week because I couldn't cut and put this way a little. So you have to watch in Team 21 will be the part B of this. It will be next week. Thank you all very much. If you have got any questions, I'm there.